Hello YouTube, this is OJ Cubing and welcome to my 3x3 Speedcube comparison videos of 2017. So Speedcubes I'm going to be comparing in this video is the Moyu Aolong version 2, the Moyu Aolong GTS, the Dian Zanchi, the Qiyi Thunderclap V2, the Volk 3 and a Rubik's brand. Now I thought I'd add in a Rubik's brand just for a bit of fun because, you know, why not? And I'm sorry I don't have a GANS 356 Air. I would have loved to include that in this video. Unfortunately I don't have one. Now my predictions are going to be that the Volk and the GTS are going to be the best, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be rating them on my first impressions and how easy they are to set up, and that will make out of 5. And then they get each 5 points maximum for speed, smoothness, corner cutting, and corner twists and pops, which will leave a total of 25 per cube. And that will lead us to be able to rank them up together, and then we'll test that out with an average of 5 on each cube at the end. So if we start off with first impressions, I'm only going to be giving this a score out of 2 because it doesn't mean that much. But the Moyu Aolong is a very nice looking cube. I quite like the Moyu sticker scheme and it looks like a good speed cube, so I'd give that a 2 out of 2. If we go to the Aolong GTS, again, it's the Moyu colour scheme, which I really like. And it's got these really cool crescented edges and squared off corners, which I really like. So again, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 2. If we move on to the Dian Zanchi, it's stickerless, which I used to like, but now I don't really like so much. And it looks very blocky. You can see there's barely any sort of cuts in these corners. If we compare it to a Moyu Aolong, you can see the cuts are much bigger. And so I'm going to be giving this a 1 out of 2 because I still quite like the look of it, so it's going to get that. If we go to the Volk, I kind of like it. It's got the same crescent shape and the squared off corners, but it's got a very dark blue that I don't really like, and also you can see the stickers are peeling off a bit. And so for first impressions, I'm going to give it again a 1 out of 2. Let's go to the Thunderclap V2, ignoring the fact that it's in primary plastic because I wouldn't normally buy it in that, but I got it for free. You can watch my unboxing for that. In terms of the thing, it's got the squared off corners and the crescented pieces again, and I quite like the colour scheme as well. So again, this is going to get a 2 out of 2. And then for the Rubik's brand, it doesn't look particularly great, does it? I mean, the colours are alright, apart from being faded and the stickers are peeled off from how long I've had it for. So I'm going to give this a 1 out of 2 again. In terms of how easy they were to set up, the Moyu Aolong was actually probably the easiest. It's very easy to put your thumb in there, twist it and take it apart. It was very easy to lube up the core, very easy to lube the pieces and stuff. So I'll be giving this a 3 out of 3 for that. Next probably comes the Dian Zanchi. Again, the pieces are quite easy to get out, I say. But having the torpedoes can make it a bit harder to take apart. But again, it's still pretty easy to do. And it was very easy to lube up the core and everything. So I'll give that a 3 out of 3. Now, the Moyu Aolong GTS and the Volk 3, I would both give 2 out of 3 on this because the edges are very difficult to take out and I'm actually scared of breaking my Volk in a way, so I'm going to leave it there. And the same with the GTS, it needs a bit of twisting to properly get it out. And also they have no center stalk, if you can see inside there. It's all held together by spring tension and stuff, and so that can make it quite difficult to assemble and also to set up the core of it. So both of these are going to get 2 out of 3s for that. The Thunderclap version 1 is going to get a 1 out of 3 because I find it very difficult to actually lube this cube and make it into a place where it's smooth and not blocky or scratchy. I don't like that sort of feel of the cube, and that's been really driving me mad in terms of I can't make this into a good puzzle. So I'm going to give this a 1 out of 3. And then the Rubik's brand, of course, gets 0 out of 3 because you can't even take off the caps to get at the springs and tension it or anything. Also, with the Qiyi Thunderclap, it's difficult to get the center caps off because they're like really big, and if I try and get one off now, oh dear. As you can see, it's like really big center caps that goes right into the middle of the piece, and so that's another reason this is getting a 1 out of 3. Now we move on to the categories everyone actually cares about. If we go for speed, these two, the Volk and the GTS, are getting 5 out of 5 straight off the bat. They're very fast cubes, even uncontrollable at some points, and they can just go very, very speedy, and world-class Speedcubers have been able to show just how fast they are and got new world records and stuff like that. They're very, very quick, amazingly smooth. I can't quite believe how fast they are. So these are both getting 5 out of 5 in that category. Next comes the Moyu Aolong and the Thunderclap. These are also very speedy puzzles, and I wouldn't think anything else of them. I don't think a non-cuber would be able to tell any sort of difference between them, but I can personally tell that they are slightly slower than the Volk and the GTS, even though they are still pretty fast, and so for that reason I am going to be giving them 4 out of 5 each. Next comes the Dian Zanchi, which I'm giving a 3 out of 5. It can still actually be pretty speedy, but it's just not as fast as the current Speedcubes and is a bit outdated, so I'm going to be giving that a 3 out of 5. And then lastly, the Rubik's brand. Well, this isn't a speed Rubik's brand. It's quite bad, okay? So, it still turns. So I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5 for being able to turn. In terms of smoothness, the smoothest cube I have is the Volk. It's very, very smooth and sort of slippery and just goes everywhere you want it to go, really. I'd also place the GANS 356 Air up here if I had it. These are two of the very smooth cubes, and it's just effortless to turn, really. It's absolutely incredible, the design of it. So I'm going to be giving the Volk a 5 out of 5. And then the next two come the two Moyu cubes, the Aolong and the GTS. The Weilong I was a bit surprised at because it's actually quite blocky. When you turn it, you can hear the noise as well. Oh. And it's very blocky, and so for that reason, even though it's still fast, it's only getting a 4 out of 5 for smoothness. And the Aolong as well is just blocky in comparison to the current Speedcubes of the day, but it still feels relatively smooth when you do sort of things like this. So both of these cubes are getting 4 out of 5 for smoothness. We then move on to the Dian Zanchi, which is very, very blocky. And that does stop it from being so smooth, but this cube is very well worn in, so it actually kind of survives that. And I'm even tempted to give this a 4 out of 5, but I know that really I should give it a 3 out of 5 because it is still a very blocky cube, especially with these cut off corners, so I'm giving that a 3 out of 5. I'm also giving the Thunderclap a 3 out of 5 because it just sounds so blocky. And it's very sandpapery as well. It's such a loud cube. Like, I'm even tempted to give this a 2 out of 5. In fact, I think I will. This is getting a 2 out of 5 for smoothness. It can be quite fast, but I honestly don't like how rough and sort of not smooth this cube feels. So I'm going to give that a 2 out of 5. And then Rubik's brand, well, yeah, 1 out of 5. Okay, so let's move up there to corner cutting. I think the best corner cutting cube in this little comparison video is going to be the GTS. It can cut every single angle, whether it's reverse or forwards. If we go for reverse, it goes up until that point there, where it starts forwards cutting. And so you can see forwards cutting, it goes, it basically just cuts from everywhere. It's really good, actually. It will literally cut any angle I give it at. And, yeah, that's incredible from a Speedcube. So that's definitely getting a 5 out of 5. The next one I would give to the Volk, which I'm just going to decide whether it's not cutting there. I don't know whether it's my tensions, because it is a bit tighter than the Weilong. But it's not cutting absolutely everywhere, even though it does cut still significant angles. And so I'm going to be giving this a 4 out of 5. If we go to the Aolong, it can kind of lock up a bit there. But for forwards, it's still kind of good. I'd probably give this 3 out of 5, just because it's quite good, but if we're giving the Volk a 4, then it kind of has to be lower than that, so I'm giving this a 3 out of 5 for corner cutting. For the Thunderclap V2, it cuts everywhere, I think, actually. I expected it not to because it's kind of blocky, but yeah, I'm going to have to give this a 5 out of 5, actually. I've missed that out of the order. Yeah, it cuts every angle, so that's getting a 5 out of 5 for corner cutting. The Dian Zanchi, remarkably well for what I remembered of it. It's actually not got such great forwards cutting, but its backwards, its reverse is pretty decent. So I'm going to be giving this a 3 out of 5, I think on par with the Moyu Aolong. And, well, Rubik's brand's not doing so well, is it? Reverse, non-existent. Forwards, we can sometimes get that. That kind of cuts. I'm going to be generous and give it a 1, I think. Yeah. And lastly, corner twists and pops. So, I'm going to take the GTS, the Volk, and the Thunderclap, because I know these are supposed to be very good cubes for corner twists and pops, because they got very squared off corners. That was the whole point of the design. As you can see, this does twist in its place, but it does take a bit of force to get around that corner bit. And let's have a look at the Volk. Again, that would corner twist, it feels like, potentially, but it takes some effort. And then the Thunderclap, again, it kind of takes effort to corner twist. Maybe not so much as the other two, and I know that these are kind of difficult to even get a piece out, so I doubt I would ever have a pop on any of these three. They're very stable, and yeah, they can corner twist, but I think there's a cube that's better for corner twist, so I'm going to give these all 4 out of 5 for that category. Next up we have the Moyu Aolong, and I know that this cube corner twists very easily. It's actually one of the reasons why it's outdated, and so I'm actually going to give this a 2 out of 5 for this, because I've had corner twists so many times on this cube, and it's very frustrating. Thankfully I've never got it in pop, and I've never got it in comp, and I've never popped it either. Well, I have popped it at home. It's quite easy to take apart, so I'm going to be giving it a 2 out of 5 for corner twists and pops. For the Dian Zanchi, again, the can corner twist. I think it has corner twisted on me before, but not as much as the Aolong, and it hasn't popped in a long time, so I'm going to give it a 4. No, I'm going to give it a 3, sorry. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. These three are getting a 4, so it'd be unfair to be giving it a 4. So it's going to get a 3 out of 5. But the Rubik's brand, this has never, ever popped on me. I can't even take it apart myself, and it's never corner twisted, so obviously this is the best Speedcube of 2017, so for corner cutting and popping, this is getting a 5 out of 5. So guys, we have the scores on the doors, and in last place, commiserations to, of course, the Rubik's brand. It's not really a Speedcube, is it? It's got 9 out of 25, which is 36%, and don't get one of these if you want a Speedcube. Please don't get one of these. Anyway, in second to last place with a total of 16 out of 25, or 64%, is the Dian Zanchi, which is what I was expecting. Again, this cube's quite outdated, but still a relatively good Speedcube. Got over 50% after all. And you can get this if you want to, maybe as a transition cube, so you don't have to go to the fastest Speedcubes all of a sudden. And I'd still say it's a fairly good cube to solve on, just not one for the top Speedcubers, that's for sure. In fourth place with 18 out of 25 is the Thunderclap V2. And I didn't like this cube because of its smoothness mostly. That lost it 3 points. And of course it's not as fast as some of them, and it's kind of difficult to set up. And so it's mainly because of that blocky scratchiness feeling that I'm only giving it 18 out of 25. And so that's why it's in fourth place. So coming in with 19 out of 25, or 76%, is the Moyu Aolong, which I still think is a really good Speedcube. I mean, it came third out of my list, and it's just slightly outdated in that the only reason anyone would think of this cube as being bad is because they've released better ones, like the two I'm about to show you. That's the only reason that would make this a bad cube, is compared it to a better cube than this one. So, in second place is the Volk, and it got 20 out of 25. It lost marks because of the stickers peeling a bit. It's not quite as fast as the GTS, but it's very smooth, so it won points there. And it's basically, obviously, a really good all-round cube. It's personally my favourite. I prefer it to the GTS, but that's just my own personal preference. And I do really like the cube, and it is currently my main, so that's cool. And in first place, we have the Waylong GTS. It only really lost marks in smoothness because it's slightly blocky feel, and that's about it, apart from being slightly difficult to set up and slightly not so good as a Rubik's brand when it comes to corner cutting. Sorry, when it comes to corner twists, sorry, of course, it's got very good corner cutting. And it got 22 out of 25, which is 88%. So well done to the Waylong GTS. Comment if you agree with my selection and if there's anything I should have changed, but this is how it's going to be for me. So to recap, we've got 9 out of 25, 16 out of 25, then we have this at 18 out of 25, the Moyu Aolong at 19 out of 25, the Volk at 20, and the Waylong GTS at 22, which is the winner. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be doing one average of 5 on all of these cubes. I'm going to be doing 5 solved in this, 5 solved, 5 solved, 5, 5, 5. It's not going to be the best average of 5, it's just going to be 5 that I do. I'm going to tell you the average, and I may even give some of the faster solves, and we'll see whether my predictions were accurate enough. That actually hurt my fingers. Ow. I just got 2 PLL skips and 1 average of 5. It's rubbish. None of them were good solves. 2 PLL skips and they're good solves. Huh. Oh, I messed up that G-perm at the end. That could have been an 11. Still, that's a really fast time. Woo. So guys, I've just finished recording all these averages, and the results were very different to what I was expected. Of course, the Rubik's brand came in last with an average of 40.879. Not my proudest moment, but it's so difficult to turn. I've never adapted this, and it's rubbish, obviously. Next came the Diane Zanchi with 19.664, which is still sub 20, so pretty decent. Then came the shock horror of the Waylong GTS. I blame this I blame this completely on just the solves and me being stupid. I actually got a 12.7 time, which definitely would have been a PB if I wasn't looking at that timer, and it made me really hesitate, and I did a GPM really badly, and so I got 12.7, which is still a good time, but I'm really gutted about that. But yeah, the average was only 17.548, just because of the rest of the solves were pretty bad on it. So the top cube is now in 4th, so that's a bit odd. Next came the Volk, I believe, yeah, the Volk. Again, I messed up a load of the solves, and I ended up with the 17.289 average. So that was kind of annoying. And then in second place was the Thunderclap with 17.163. Don't really know how I did that. Yeah, this came in second. Don't know how that happened. And in first place, we have the Moyu Aolong, where most of my solves were really lucky. And I still think this is a really good Speedcube. So if you still wanted to get it, I definitely wouldn't stop you from doing it. But in terms of the actual best Speedcube of 2017, at the start of 2017, I believe is the Waylong GTS, closely followed by the Volk. Sorry guys, this has been a very long video. I've been meaning to do this for a while and I'm glad I finally got around to doing it. Hope you all enjoyed this video and leave a like if you did, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you all next time. Bye!